The 5-year rule the wealthy use to escape income dependency. How many more mornings are you willing to wake up to an alarm clock you don't control? Not because you hate your life, but because dependency has a cost. At 25, time feels abundant. At 50, time feels strategic. Because in your 40s and 50s, time doesn't move linearly. It compresses. 5 years isn't just 5 years. It's the difference between repositioning early or running out of flexibility. Most people assume retirement happens at 65, but that's not a plan. That's default programming, and default programming creates dependent outcomes. What if instead of waiting 15 or 20 more years, you focused on building escape velocity in 5 disciplined years? Not through speculation, not through hype, but through structured compounding across multiple income systems. Today, I'll show you what I call the 5-year acceleration rule, and more importantly, why most people quit right before it works. The first 2 years feel frustrating. You invest consistently. You reduce lifestyle leakage. You redirect capital from consumption to production. And your portfolio barely moves. This is where doubt becomes loud. Am I too late? Should I be doing something more aggressive? Is this even worth it? Here's what's actually happening. You are building reinvestment infrastructure. Let's use realistic numbers for your demographic. $1,000 per month invested, 8% annual return, disciplined, diversified allocation. Year 1. Your growth feels small relative to deposits. Year 2, profits begin generating profits, but emotionally it still feels slow. This phase is psychologically dangerous because quitting in year 2 doesn't just delay progress, it compounds regret. Every year delayed at 45 plus costs more than a year delayed at 25. Time magnifies delay. These are the invisible years, invisible roots. But without roots, nothing scales. And here's the shift that matters most. You stop thinking like a consumer. You start thinking like a capital allocator. You stop asking, can I afford this? You start asking, what return am I sacrificing? That identity shift is the real compounding engine. By year 3, something subtle changes. Your portfolio growth starts rivaling your contributions. Your money begins doing noticeable work. And ironically, this is when many investors sabotage themselves. They see a larger balance. They get nervous. They pause contributions, upgrade lifestyle, shift strategy. That decision feels safe. But it's like cutting power to an aircraft just before takeoff. You burned fuel for 3 years, and now you're stepping off the runway. Phase 2 is about protection, not excitement. Your dollars are now hiring workers. Each dollar earns independently. Addition turns into multiplication. The snowball becomes heavy. Momentum begins building without constant force. Your role shifts. You are no longer pushing the wheel uphill. You are protecting the engine. This is the discipline window. If you interrupt here, you reset the clock. If you protect here, you enter escape velocity. By year 5, something changes emotionally. You stop hoping. You start calculating. Your annual investment growth may equal several months of income, then potentially an entire year. Not because you discovered a secret, because you survived long enough. The wealthy understand something most people miss. Freedom isn't about net worth. It's about coverage. When your passive systems cover your expenses, work becomes optional. That's financial independence. Let's visualize this. If you start today at 50 versus waiting until 53, the gap by 60 isn't small. It's structural. Time magnifies discipline, but it magnifies delay even more. 5 focused years beats 20 distracted ones. Now let's address something uncomfortable. Most investors in their 40s and 50s believe they're diversified, but they're diversified inside one system: public equities. Public equities, private cash flow, Scalable digital assets. Tax advantage structures. Most portfolios sit almost entirely in quadrant 1. That's not diversification. That's concentration wearing multiple labels. If markets stagnate for 5 years and equities are your only engine, you don't crash, you drift. And drifting in your 50s is more dangerous than crashing in your 20s. Because drifting erodes optionality quietly. Sophisticated investors don't eliminate risk. They eliminate single system dependency. They build parallel engines. One underutilized category among traditional investors is scalable digital asset ownership. Not influencing, not personal branding. Asset ownership. Faceless YouTube automation channels. These generate global advertising income. They can be systemized, outsourced, scaled, sold. That last part matters. Sellable assets create liquidity. Liquidity creates flexibility. And flexibility creates power. Digital advertising revenue is not directly tied to stock market multiples. Different system, different cycle. Even allocating 5–10% of capital toward scalable digital assets can reduce equity dependency, create independent cash flow, increase reinvestment capacity, add optional liquidity. This isn't about abandoning equities. It's about reducing fragility. Here's what history teaches. Repositioning is cheapest before urgency appears. When markets stall, more investors look for alternative income engines. Competition rises, niches saturate, margins compress. Optionality is most affordable when nobody feels pressure. The Nifty 50 investors didn't reposition early because everything felt fine. By the time urgency appeared, adaptation was expensive. Right now, you still have leverage. When I evaluated digital asset models, I approached them like capital allocations. Not trends, not hype. I analyzed capital requirements, scalability, margins, risk exposure, exit potential, tax implications. One of the most structured frameworks I studied was built by Matt Parr through his Tube Mastery system. What stood out wasn't income screenshots. It was structure, data-driven niche validation, outsourced production systems, asset-first thinking, scalable monetization. This isn't about becoming a YouTuber. It's about owning digital real estate. And digital real estate generates cash flow. If equities underperform for 5 years, would you rather be fully dependent or diversified across systems? Intelligent investors reposition before they're forced to. If you're serious about building a parallel income engine while markets are still cooperative, the structured framework I analyzed is linked below. Evaluate it like a capital allocation decision, not emotionally. Strategically, because 5 years from now, you won't regret disciplined diversification. You'll regret delay. And regret compounds faster than money. 5 years will pass whether you act or not. Markets will cycle whether you prepare or not. Time will compress whether you acknowledge it or not. The only variable you control is this. Will those 5 years build optionality or deepen dependency? Picture yourself 5 years from now, waking up without urgency, checking your portfolio with curiosity, not anxiety, making decisions based on choice, not necessity. That version of you is built by discipline today. The 5-year rule isn't magic. It's momentum protected long enough to matter. Start your acceleration window now. Because the real risk at this stage of life isn't volatility, it's dependency. And dependency is expensive. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel, share it with others, and let us know your feedback in the comments.